We are on the road to WrestleMania. So this week, I want to talk about WrestleMania 1, the night that started everything, the Super Bowl for professional wrestling. I want to highlight what happened that night, the matches, and all the celebrities involved. And ladies and gentlemen, this was one of the biggest gambles in business. This was one of the biggest gambles in professional wrestling history, one of the biggest gambles just as an entrepreneur that Vince McMahon ever took. So kick back, close your eyes, and go back to a time when things were a little bit more simple. You didn't have bills, you didn't have worries, you didn't have a bunch of kids running around that you had to take care of. Let me take you back to when wrestling was real. All right, guys, before we start, let me highlight a couple of brands that keep us going. First off, Zeros. Zero sugar, zero carb, gluten-free. It's hard seltzer. Grape and orange are my two favorite flavors. Veteran-owned and operated, made right here in the USA. Please be 21 and above and drink responsibly. We have 5% alcohol by volume. Go to drinkzeros.com. Find the store nearest you that's selling it, or pick up your favorite flavors right there at their website, drinkzeros.com. Thanks, Zeros, for supporting When Wrestling Was Real. Also, I got to give a shout out. My favorite shirts in the market for professional wrestling is Roots of Fight. Go to rootsoffight.com. Use When Wrestling Was Real to get 20% off your order today. They have some vintage wrestling stuff. They also have some modern day stuff with like CM Punk, Rey Mysterio. They also have Muhammad Ali and Roy Jones Jr. and just, they've got rock bands. They got it all. Just go to rootsoffight.com, pick yourself up a phenomenal shirt from them, and use When Wrestling Was Real to get 20% off. All right, enough business. Let's dive into the night that really kind of started everything when it comes to professional wrestling. The night where this thing was really put on the map like no other. This was the Super Bowl for professional wrestling. Vince McMahon did something that no one else could do. Vince McMahon had a vision like no other. And he knew that if he could draw all eyes onto the sport, that he could win everyone over. He could become that fifth sports league, outside of the NFL and the NBA and Major League Baseball and hockey. He could be that sports organization that everyone wanted to watch. Now, it meant that he had to leverage everything he had. It meant that he had to go to banks and he had to hawk everything he could. He had to beg, plead, and borrow to put this thing on. I think it paid off. Let's go back. March 31st, 1985, Madison Square Garden, New York, New York. Man, if there's any place that you could fathom having a Super Bowl and having it on the biggest stage, which is Madison Square Garden. Attendance over 19,000. Right around 19,121 to be exact. It was on closed circuit TV. This was before pay-per-view was, widely available. Let's go through the matches. Tito Santana versus the Executioner, okay? Tito wins. He wins by submission with a figure 4 leg lock. Could you imagine a WrestleMania being finished with someone else's finish that they made famous, like Ric Flair? Could you imagine that today's age, someone going out and just CM Punk doing a tombstone this WrestleMania to win his match? You just don't do that. Like, it's unheard of, right? And I couldn't imagine sitting there in 1980, was it 1985, watching someone else use a figure 4 to win a match. Just unheard of. Our next match was King Kong Bundy versus SD Jones. King Kong Bundy winning this match. This match lasted mere seconds. It was a pinfall after the avalanche splash from King Kong. Seconds. This was just a squash match. I mean, people forgot that it even happened. Someone that we highlighted last week, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat versus Matt Bourne. Ricky goes over. He wins pinfall after the flying cross body. Then we have David Sammartino versus Brutus the Barber Beefcake. This was a double disqualification. David's dad, the legendary Bruno Sammartino, Johnny Valiant for Brutus the Barber Beefcake, they both interfered. We get a double disqualification. No one wins the match. Then we move into our first title match of the night, which was the Intercontinental Championship. Greg the Hammer Valentine versus the Junkyard Dog. This is some old school professional wrestling right here. The champion is Valentine. He wins, and he wins with a count out after he used the ropes for leverage. The next match is the WWF Tag Team Championship. We have the U.S. Express versus the Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkoff, one of the heels of all heels. Volkoff sang the Soviet anthem before the match. This was during the Cold War. And for those that are too young to remember, man, the Cold War was, man, that was a stressful time. A lot of tensions between the Soviet Union, the U.S., and the world in general. And for him to stand in the middle of the ring in New York City, America's city, and to sing the Soviet anthem in the middle of the ring at Madison Square Garden at WrestleMania 1, you want to talk about the fans wanting to rush the ring. They wanted to get their hands on him. Like, this was, it ain't cheap heat. It's real heat. They hated him. They believed it. This was as kayfabe as it comes, right? This is still 1985. Fans aren't smartened up like they are now. And for him to be singing the Soviet anthem, guys, that's the brainchild. That is the brainchild of Vince McMahon. That is him seeing something bigger. He is using what's going on in the world. And this was something that he did throughout the entire time of him running the company. This isn't just a one-off. We saw him use modern politics. We saw him use modern issues as a source for a storyline. Then we had two big powerhouses, guys. We had two legends of the game here. We had a Mount Rushmore guy in Andre the Giant versus Big John Studd. This was a body slam challenge. This became another part of WrestleMania 1 that was just really fun. And what Andre did post-match made it even better. There was a $15,000 reward for the body slam match, okay? Whoever was able to body slam the other person wins the match. Okay, now you have to remember, this is still WrestleMania 1. We have not seen Andre get slammed yet on TV. We've not seen his feet come off the wrestling ring, the mat, okay? That comes WrestleMania 3 with Hogan, right? That is the big moment in WrestleMania history. Going into this match, we have Big John Studd is a massive human being as well versus the eighth wonder of the world in Andre the Giant. Andre the Giant wins. The fun thing was he gets the money post-match in the ring, right? What does he do? He doesn't need the money. He doesn't care. All Andre wanted to do was win. All Andre wanted to do was put a show on. All Andre wanted to do was put his opponent through the mat. All he wanted to do was walk away a winner. He could care less about the money. So what did he do? He took the money and he threw it to the fans. $15,000 flying out into the crowd. They go crazy. It's a lot of fun. Fans are, there's probably some fists got thrown. There was probably a little bit of an argument, a little bit of a fight to get some hands on some cash. We've seen things like that happen before. Then we go into the women's championship match. It was pre-Attitude Era where we got to see, the lingerie matches. We saw the female wrestlers used more as an attraction for young men. They were used as a sex symbol. This time frame, women's wrestling was legitimate wrestling. We have a special guest in Cyndi Lauper. And let me tell you guys, Cyndi Lauper in 1985, there was nobody over more than her in freaking music, okay? In pop culture, Cyndi Lauper was everything. She was the face of MTV at this point. And this was where Vince was utilizing that pop culture. He was utilizing what he saw with MTV to go get a younger audience. This sport was no longer going to be just a blue-collar, white, redneck, country boy sport anymore, which is what it was beforehand. It really was. The South dominated professional wrestling, in my opinion. Utilizing Cyndi Lauper, we are going to go get a female audience. We're going to go get a younger audience. We're going to go get the MTV audience to come over and watch WrestleMania, to watch the biggest show in professional wrestling history. All right, guys, just want to say thank you for watching this video. Thank you for supporting this channel. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell. All of those things help me out, and it doesn't cost you a thing. Also, go follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all under When Wrestling Was Real. Once again, thank you for your support. Thank you for being here. And now I'm going to get you back to the real reason why you're here, to the video. Thank y'all. Now we have the winner being Wendy Richard, which was a surprise to everyone at this time. Big part to this was the Rockin' and Wrestling connection on MTV. This is what Vince wanted. He tapped into that audience better than anyone could ever imagine, and highlighted a women's championship match in 1985. Think about this. We talk about it all the time about the gender pay gap. We talk about just gender inequality in this country. And in 1985, Vince McMahon vision was far enough out to where he realized, I need to tap into a different audience. And he gave the opportunity for female wrestling to be highlighted on the biggest stage in the history of professional wrestling up to that point. That to me says a lot. Once again, we can say a lot. We say what we want about Vince, but for him to be willing to do that, he could have went to a male artist that was on MTV. He could have went to he could have went down so many other avenues. Why Cyndi Lauper? Why female wrestling? Why did he tap into that part? I'm not 100% sure, but I give kudos to the man for doing it. I give him credit for what he did there. That was pretty impressive. To be willing to do that, yeah, tip of the hat, sir. Now, let's move on to the main event of that night. Hulk Hogan and Mr. T. Man, you can't get more 1980s than Hulk Hogan and Mr. T. Think about it. I mean, I've got a Hogan cup here. Look at this cup. Guys, Hulk Hogan and Mr. T were literally the poster children of the 80s. You've got Mr. T with the mohawk and all the chains. He's on the A team. Everyone knows who he is. Vince goes out in pop culture and pulls a key figure. He pulls someone who's on mainstream television, who's on that premium television spot every single week on the A team, and brings him over and has him walk out with the biggest name of professional wrestling, has him walk out with the man who became the face of professional wrestling, the man who became the face of WWF. Vince knew exactly what he was doing. He knew that if I was going to take the biggest gamble in my career, if I was going to roll the dice like this, I have to do it with the right people, and I have to connect the right people. I've got to take my biggest face and I've got to put it with one of the biggest face on just regular television, in Mr. T. Who do they go up against? Rowdy Roddy Piper and Mr. Paul Orndorff. My God. Guys, Paul Orndorff and Rowdy Roddy Piper are two of the best wrestlers ever. Paul Orndorff is insanely good. Insanely good. I mean, he is Mr. Wonderful. And he looked amazing too. Remember when he used to have the mirror and all that stuff? He'd look at himself. But you want to talk about a man's man. Holy crap. And now you've got Roddy Piper. Roddy Piper could draw heat in a freaking igloo. Roddy Piper was a heat-seeking missile at all times. And in 1985, he would get booed out of the freaking house, guys. He was the man when it came to seeking heat. And him and Hogan at the time hated each other. I cannot say enough about Muhammad Ali. I am a huge fan of Muhammad Ali. I'm a huge fan of his work ethic. I'm a huge fan of him as a boxer. I think he's the greatest boxer to ever live. And his humanitarian work is amazing. Just overall, I'm a fan. There's a lot of things that we can discuss on, the other side of Muhammad Ali, but that's for a different conversation at a different channel. I'm here to highlight and show positivity. Muhammad Ali being a guest referee, guys, it doesn't get much better than that. Guest timekeeper, Billy Martin. New York Yankees manager, Billy Martin, in case you didn't know. Billy Martin, as a Yankees manager, I think he was fired probably 50 times by George Steinbrenner. They had a tumultuous relationship, but for some reason, Steinbrenner kept hiring him back. Why? Because Billy Martin was a freaking an amazing manager, and could win at the drop of a hat, and he would win at all costs. He didn't care. Love Billy Martin, but here's the wildest celebrity to be at WrestleMania, none other than Liberace. Yeah, but as we all know, the winners of the main event is Hogan and Mr. T. This was revolutionary for wrestling at the time to have this many celebrities. We see a lot of celebrities now. We see celebrities show up to every single pay-per-view. Heck, we see celebrities on Monday Night Raw. We see them on a SmackDown. Uh, we see them on AEW. Guys, this was a time where that didn't happen. You didn't have that crossover as much as we see today. See a little bit, you'd see just little spots here or there, not like you did that night. That night was star-studded. You had so many people tuning in. You had so many people in the arena excited to see these big names. Guys, when you've got Muhammad Ali as your freaking referee, I don't know how you get better than that. And then you roll out the biggest name in music at that time. I mean, at that time, she was burning up the charts in Cyndi Lauper. You know, you've got the Madonnas and the Michael Jacksons and all that stuff. Don't get me wrong, but at that time, Cyndi Lauper was the biggest name, man. She was doing that mall tour where she was going around to every single mall in America doing her music. It was crazy. I think the best storyline that we saw, of course, was Hogan and Mr. T versus Piper and Orndorff. Piper attacked Cyndi Lauper during an MTV angle, during a promo leading up to WrestleMania. This was the stuff that really was different than what we would see with a typical professional wrestling promotion, a professional wrestling big event, one of their big events of the year. You wouldn't see the cross promotion on other channels. This was something that was an MTV angle. Once again, Vince just thinking outside the box. He was 10, 15, 20 years ahead of his time at this point. Mr. T got involved and he defended Lauper, which was cool. And now you get Cyndi Lauper, who's doing this with the main event match, but she's also helping out in the women's match as well. Like, it's insane. And the fact that Hogan teamed up with Mr. T, the ultimate 1980s powerhouses, the two guys that were the face of the 1980s, coming together to take down the big bad Rowdy Roddy Piper and Paul Orndorff. As we know in the professional wrestling world, those two guys, super heels, they knew what they were doing. And now you've got a guy. I think what's interesting is you got 3 professional wrestlers in there with a Mr. T. I would love to have heard, what was going through Mr. T's head, how he was operating, that night. Like, what was his, heart rate? What was his blood pressure like? Let's not forget, though, using the Cold War to bring heat on Volkoff, because that to me was something that we don't talk about when it comes to WrestleMania 1 enough. Vince using modern politics to draw heat, to draw a crowd into something. Please correct me if I'm wrong on that, but from what I can gather, it seems like this was the first time we saw it on this type of stage, on such a mainstream stage. So this launched WWE into a national dominance, okay? WrestleMania 1 was Vince leveraging and gambling everything. Without it, I don't know if we have professional wrestling like we do now. Him pulling in pop culture, him pulling in relevant storylines with the Cold War, and using celebrities to launch WrestleMania like he did was so smart. We can argue what happened in WrestleMania 2, but then he bounced back again in WrestleMania 3 and had arguably maybe the greatest WrestleMania of, could be considered one of the greatest WrestleManias of all time. One of the biggest moments in wrestling history that we all still talk about happened in WrestleMania 3. But him being able to leverage everything, him rolling the dice, willing to go bankrupt. If WrestleMania 1 doesn't work, guys, WWF is getting sold. WWF is on the steps of the courthouse being sold pennies on the dollar at this point. And Vince knew that if this worked, I think he knew that he had something that was going to outlive him. I think he knew that if he could launch WrestleMania and he can make WrestleMania the spectacle that it's become. I believe that he saw what we see now. I believe that he laid in his bed at night and he had the vision of sold out football stadiums. I believe that he had the vision of going into the Pontiac Superdome. I believe he envisioned that and he saw it laying in his bed at night. He knew what he had. He just had to get there and he had to risk it all. What we see now with WrestleMania, what we see now with pay-per-views, guys, you got to remember before 1985, it just didn't exist like this. We, of course, had some major like NWA type of events. I mean, of course, we've always had like the Starcades. And guys, those are great, but they're not WrestleMania. WrestleMania is attended by people all around the world. I've gone to multiple myself, and man, there's a buzz in the city, there's a buzz in the arena, there's a buzz in the stadium like no other. And it's a special night. And that was all built off of risk. That was all built off taking a chance. I think we can learn something from that. I think if you're scared to take that next step in whatever it is you want to do, guys, roll the dice. If you don't have anything now, what's there to lose? Go for it. That's what Vince did. That was his mentality. Screw it. I don't care what the critics say. I don't care what people think. I can go make more money. If this thing goes bankrupt, I'll figure out something else. That was his mentality. He did it. He made it work. His vision to know what the future was going to be. I have to bring celebrities. I have to get pop culture involved. I've got to have people. I can't have just my normal audience watching this show this night. I need the world watching, just like we see with the Super Bowl. So many people tune into the Super Bowl, not because they love football necessarily, but because that's the night we all get together. We get some chips and dip, we cook some burgers and some dogs, and we sit around and we watch this game that might be the only time you've watched football all season. Same thing with professional wrestling. People are tuning into WrestleMania that have never watched it before. They're wanting to go. It's a bucket list item. It doesn't become a bucket list item unless you do something to launch this thing the right way. And he did it. He didn't do a soft launch. He didn't do well, let's just roll this out. Let's see how it goes. We'll make a little bit of money. We'll take that money. We'll reinvest it over the next few years of doing the same thing. And then hopefully we can blow this thing up to be big. He said, the hell with that. We're going to make it the biggest thing in wrestling. We're going to make this the biggest thing in sports entertainment history. We're going to make this the biggest night in sports. This is Super Bowl. This is Daytona 500. This is the World Series. It's the Stanley Cup, by God. And everyone needs to tune in. You have to tune in. You have to see what's going to happen. You have to see Cyndi Lauper show up. You've got to see if Hogan and Mr. T, the good guys, can overcome the evil, the bad guys. And remember, this is 85. This was good versus evil was huge. Andre the Giant, peak 1980s until 2 years later. And we'll go into that later. But ladies and gentlemen, we don't have what we have today without the foundation, without the first brick being laid, without WrestleMania 1. We don't have a Mike Tyson coming in with DX, okay? We don't have a Johnny Knoxville wrestling in a WrestleMania. We don't have these celebrities, these crossovers without what happened on WrestleMania 1. I personally think that WrestleMania 1 is not a Mount Rushmore WrestleMania of all time, but I do believe that it is the mountain, that the other four, the four that we will put on the Mount Rushmore of WrestleManias, it is the rock that we chisel the other four out of. Because without it, we don't get to have a Mount Rushmore. Without the rock itself, you can't carve out four Mount Rushmore candidates. You got to have the actual rock. You got to have the foundation. And that foundation for WrestleMania happened at WrestleMania 1, the most important WrestleMania, because without it, we're not sitting here today. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in. Once again, if you haven't subscribed already, please hit that subscribe button. Go follow us on Facebook and TikTok as well, When Wrestling Was Real. And tune in next week when I continue to discuss WrestleMania. Ladies and gentlemen, we are just a few weeks away now from the biggest night in professional wrestling. I cannot wait. Thank you once again for your support. Really appreciate it. Go check out Zeros at drinkzeros.com. Be sure to be 21 years old and drink responsibly. And go check out my friends at Roots of Fight at rootsoffight.com. Use When Wrestling Was Real as your promo code to get 20% off. Thank you guys. And remember, wrestling is real and so is God. Thank you guys. See y'all next week.